Let's go. Today I want to talk about the 2017 film 1BR. As always, this review is spoiler free. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The plot of the movie basically follows a woman who moves to LA in an attempt to start a new life. And she moves into an apartment complex that at first seems perfect and idyllic and exactly what she's looking for, except little does she know that the place is actually run by a rather sinister cult. Going into this movie originally, I was under the impression that this was actually a movie that people liked and that this was like a popular movie. And it was only after seeing it that I learned that, number one, apparently nobody's even seen this movie. And number two, the few people that have seen it gave it pretty mixed reviews. It didn't really get the most positive response from a lot of people, which is surprising because I actually did like it. The movie really does a good job of keeping me off balance and uncomfortable throughout its runtime. Partially it does that by delivering some extremely hateable villains. Like, the two primary villains in this movie are some of the most just angering and hateable villains that I've seen on the screen in quite a while. And yet, this isn't one of those movies where it's just people that are evil for evil's sake. On a certain level, I kind of do actually understand where they're coming from, and I understand why some of the cult members want to be part of this cult and are getting something out of it. And I think the movie does definitely explore a little bit marginally some interesting themes about like the isolation of the modern world and the way that we're all just sucked into our digital world and how that's isolating us. And I will say the movie doesn't explore it in the most interesting or in-depth way, but still it's an interesting theme to explore. And I'm glad that the movie does at least kind of nod its head towards that kind of idea. On a certain level, I do understand why people don't like this movie. The writing is definitely not top-notch. There are some really dumb moments in the movie, and very often the movie will reiterate certain points over and over again where it's like, yeah, we got that the first time, you don't have to keep reiterating it. Or there's some moments where instead of allowing the audience to kind of figure out what's going on for ourselves, the movie will opt to use these kind of really heavy-handed flashback scenes and stuff like that to just kind of hammer points home that really didn't need to be hammered home in that way. The last thing I want to bring up about this movie is the ending. In my opinion, it's really effective, it's really chilling, and it really leaves me a little bit unsettled after it ends. But honestly, the one thing I noticed after the ending, and I don't know why I didn't notice this sooner, but it's really like the movie ended and then it fully hit me. This movie feels like it is heavily taking inspiration from that movie, The Invitation. I believe it was from like 2015 or something. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's derivative, but it definitely does feel like it is taking a lot from that movie. Honestly though, if you're going to take inspiration from a certain movie, you can do a whole lot worse than taking it from The Invitation. So yeah, 1BR, definitely not the best movie I've ever seen. It definitely suffers from some writing issues at a few points, and it's honestly not the most original thing ever. But for me, it was a relatively enjoyable and effective little thriller that worked for me. And I definitely recommend it if you're just looking for a kind of fun, effective thriller that's going to pass the time. In my opinion, it's a light 7 out of 10.